Greetings to you tuned in. Thank you so much for keeping it with us and welcome to this edition of One-on-One with Michael Jordan. I'll go straight to the point. They are a group. Our country is made up of different communities, but there is a community that has grievances that they would love to air out, to be heard by the public and probably those that have something to do, those that are concerned. The people with authority maybe to touch here and there to see that they get justice where they think they are not satisfied. Some of the injustices they complain about are historical, others are current. We want you to understand what the injustices are and what they think the solutions could be. Join me, welcome the Director of Operations in the Bunyoro Reparations Agency, Mr. Bulemeezi Solomon Gunjunzire. We're going to discuss with him about a number of issues where they think they are not happy. They were not given justice and what the real solutions could be. Sir, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you, please.
Yes. Tell us about Bukitarepa itself in the first place. Who or what is Bukitarepa? Bunyoro Kitara Reparations Agency. Tell us about that organization.
Okay, first of all, good afternoon, viewers. Once again, I'm Bulemeezi Solomon Gunjunzire, as I've heard. I'm working as a Director of Operation in this organization, Bukitarepa. Bukitarepa is an organization registered legal to handle issues which happened to Bunyoro long time ago, or what we call historical injustice. So Bukitarepa is a registered organization with that aim of public litigation all around and to address the historical injustices meant to Bunyoro. Yes.
What are the historical injustices that were meant on the Bunyoro?
Okay, originally Bunyoro Kitara, before the British protectorate, was a very powerful kingdom, almost in Africa. So when these people, the white, came to this country, more especially to Bunyoro, they engaged there the genocide. Very many people died because of the struggle, and after the struggle, then the historical injustice started from that.
When was that struggle?
Well, it is from 1891 up to 1899, and even up to the signing of the 1900 agreement. All that period was a period of genocide. Yes.
Really?
Yes. In fact, the history is telling us. In fact, these books, we are getting them from archives in the UK. More than 2.4 million Bunyoro died by that time.
Why?
Yeah, because they were resisting. Because these people, the British, had an agenda of annexing this part to the Equatorial Province. So Kabalega resisted. So out of that resistance, the war broke around. So out of the war, 2.4 million lost their lives. So that is the genesis of this historical injustice.
What are the historical injustices that we are talking about here?
After the genocide, there was forced assimilation of the small communities which had remained there.
Like?
And assimilation. Because those little...
Like which communities?
The Bunyoro, which were in those areas. Because now, when we talk of genocide, one of the historical injustices, there was a transfer of territories from Bunyoro to Uganda. Transfer of territories. And these territories include, there is the Singo, there is the Buweekula, there is the Bulemeezi, there is the Buruli, there is the Bunyara, okay? There is the Buyaga and Bugangaizi. Those areas were transferred to Uganda.
When was that?
That was between this period and the agreement was signed in 1900. Transferring the territory, it is written. Yeah, and even the current government recognizes that transfer of territories. So after the transfer of territories, people were forced to assimilate. Those few people who remained there, they forced to assimilate. And that assimilation, of course, is an injustice. People left their culture, people lost their land rights, and all that. So it is an injustice, or there are injustice among the injustices so far. Yes.
So we have looked at the genocide that gave birth to other social historical injustices.
Yes.
And these injustices include transfer of territories from Bunyoro to Buganda.
Yes. Assimilation.
Forced assimilation.
Yes.
What else?
Cultural destruction. Of course, loss of land rights. And so many others, economic rights also. So generally, among the historical injustices, there are many, and who are still even going on up to now.
Okay, let us look at one by one. Let's
Yes.
start with the transfer of territories.
Yes.
Where is the evidence that places like, because when you talk of Bunyara, that is Bugerere.
Yes.
You have talked of Buweekula.
Yes, that is
You have talked
Mubende.
of Singo.
That is Kenkwanzi, Kasan, and Chiboga.
Those were districts. Are you trying to say these were parts of Bunyoro Kingdom?
Yes. It is in black and white is written, the lost counties of Bunyoro. These territories were given to Buganda as a token to appreciate the support from Mengo. Because the British themselves could not afford the struggle. And then they allied with the Buganda and some Indians, some of the Banubi. That was a joint. And then they launched a war against Bunyoro. So to appreciate their assistance, it was the transfer of Bunyoro territories to Buganda.
How come we see the return of Buyaga and Bugangaizi and these other ones that remain?
Yeah, after complaint from the Bunyoro,
Yes.
in fact the Bunyoro started a movement which was called the Nyangere Rebellion. That Nyangere Rebellion was trying to pursue the return of all counties back to Bunyoro. But by the time they were preparing independence of this country in UK, they decided to put on some commissions to find out what to do, because already these territories have stayed in Buganda for more than 60 years. So there was something like, let us put on a referendum so that they ask the people themselves if they wish to go back to Bunyoro or to stay in Uganda or to have an independence area. So the referendum was held in 1964.
Yes.
So the majority decided to go back to Bunyoro. And in fact, these people, they said, let us start with 3 counties. That was Buyaga, Bugangaizi, and Buweekula Mubende. And then the Baganda, they insisted so much. They said, you start with only 2. So the referendum was only 2 from Buyaga and Bugangaizi. That's why you see these parts were transferred back to Bunyoro. But although they were transferred back to Bunyoro, these 2 counties, the issue of land was not resolved, because there was already an introduction of mile land system in those counties. So the ownership of land remained in the hands of the few Baganda, and then the majority of the Bunyoro remained squatters even up to today.
So who are the people that own land in those 2 counties?
Of course, the land, the big part is in Mairo, other part is in Crown. So the indigenous communities don't own land at all.
So we see the return of Buyaga and Bugangaizi.
Yes.
In 1964.
Yes.
Who stood in the way of the return of all these other counties that you claim to be?
No, the process was ongoing by the time, then 1967, the kingship or the kingdom, whatever, the culture, whatever, was abolished. And then that was the end of that exercise up to today. But we as Bucharepa, we are complaining of that. That's why we are saying we have decided to go to court to see we correct these injustices by using court.
So you talked about another injustice, forced assimilation.
Yes.
What is
You
that?
see, there was an introduction of this forced assimilation. The few people who remained there as Baganda, they were forced to be given Baganda names and follow culture of Uganda typically. And by that, they were forced to assimilate, because no one could go to hospital and get medicine. No one could go to school without having a Uganda name. And that was forced assimilation. And I want everyone to know.
Was that a rule? Was it a law? Was it a policy?
This was a policy introduced there by the Mengo government, because the counties were handed over to Baganda. The chiefs, the Miruka chief, the Gombola chief, all were Baganda. So those were laws which were governing those areas. and people are forced to assimilate. Even up to today, those areas in Kibale, in Kakumiro, where they have Kiganda names, today even.
But you see, I have heard of clans
Yes.
in Buganda that connect with clans in Bunyoro.
Okay.
And actually they have some names that connect.
Yes.
There are people called Mpuga in Buganda.
Yes.
There are people called Mpuga in Bunyoro. I've heard Nabanjas in Bunyoro and Nabanjas in Buganda. I've heard of some names in Busoga. These three kingdoms are talked about to have the same history.
Yeah.
Is that forced assimilation, or there is a historical connection of the clans that end up having the names?
No. Yes, it may be. Now that one may be a long story over that. Because now when you go back to the Bachwez dynasty, the Babito dynasty, you will find that there was a connection between Buganda and Bunyoro. And when you go back, you will find that Buganda was not there by the early, as far as 15,000, 1500, I mean. There was no Buganda.
Yes.
Buganda came after, or it started to be gaining power during the Babito dynasty. Because now Mpuga is coming from Bunyoro as a twin brother to Rukidi Mpuga, Isingoma, something. So you feel they were brothers.
Yes.
But now, I think that would not be the issue. The issue now is...
No. Because when you say forced assimilation,
yes,
you sound to delete that fact of connection within the setting of clans. I have a friend called Lutaya Msoga. I have another one called Lubega Msoga. But again, I met a Lubega Mnyoro somewhere in Hoima.
No,
that
one is coming from the assimilation, because there is a different names of Bunyoro and Baganda, and even the clans, what do we call them, the totems and whatever.
Yes.
They are different.
Do we have Ngabi clan in Bunyoro?
The Ngabi clan is there, and the Ngabi clan is also there, and all other parts in Uganda there is that Ngabi clan. So when I'm talking of assimilation, there is something, because now these people, after they were allotted these counties, they wanted people to change, to start speaking Luganda rather than speaking Bunyoro, performing the rituals in Uganda rather than performing them in Bunyoro. So to assimilate is a very dangerous situation.
I want you to first handle this issue of clans.
Yes.
Are there some clans in Buganda having a connection with some clans in Bunyoro?
Somehow, somewhere. Yes.
How?
Yeah, like now the Babito. The Babito clan, it originates from the twin brothers.
Yes.
That connection is there. Most especially the Babito. And when you go to Bahinda, you will find now it is becoming different. The way how the Babinda are making there, whatever is different from what the Bahinda are doing in Bunyoro. Okay. Yes, that is the difference. But when you go to Babito, because the Babito is the clan which is ruling in Uganda, at the same time the clan ruling in Bunyoro. Because they were brothers. Yes.
Twins, actually.
Yes, twins. So now, when we talk of the assimilation is coming...
So don't you see that the issue of the names that you're talking about
yes,
could actually have a connection with the history of the two kingdoms?
Yes.
Not just forced assimilation.
And the kingdom. We had one kingdom here, which is Bunyoro Kitara kingdom. All other these kingdoms separated from Bunyoro. That would not be the problem. But if now you decide to change the boundaries, that because you want to certify the Buganda, that's a different case. Yes, that's what we are talking. That is the line of our argument.
So we have looked at transfer of territories from Bunyoro to Uganda, then forced assimilation. What is the other injustice?
Yeah, land rights.
Land rights.
Yes.
Let's explain that. Now,
these land rights, actually, it is also among the historical injustices, coming from the historical injustice. Because when these people transferred these territories to Uganda, there was an introduction of Milo land. Then, very few people from Buganda benefited from this program.
How?
Because one person would be given 4 miles, 5 miles. And when I talk of 5 miles, you get me right. Then the rest of the community around there will remain as squatters. So it was an injustice. Yes. And even today it is ongoing. Even our national constitution upheld the Milo land tenure system. In the constitution, But we are seeing the introduction of that Mile land system was not good. It was an injustice because it left very many people's quarters on the land, which they were owning customarily. Okay? So now that is also an argument. People are suffering, and in fact this one is cutting across the entire country. Because these injustices, the giving away of Bunyoro territories, it is also in Bugisu. A very big portion of land was given to Kakunguru. And those people who are there on land as a customary, owning that land customarily, became squatters.
When was that?
Yeah, it is before the signing of 1900 agreement. Because they also gave that land to Kakunguru in Bugisu. But the Bugisu doesn't know that. Very many territories were transferred to Uganda from Wankole and other areas. Actually, the 1900 agreement.
Now, for example, you talked about the territories that were taken from Bunyoro to Uganda.
Yes.
What are those territories that were taken from Ankole to Buganda?
Yeah, I need to go to the 1900 agreement itself, but there is the Rebitakuli, there is Sembabule, there is what, all those were taken from Ankole to Buganda. In fact, Buganda originally had 3 counties. That is Busiro, Mawokota, and Chadondo. And then they were added over another 17. It is in black and white.
But you see, currently, another 17. If they had 3 and got 17, those would be 20.
No, they had 3. They add on 17, and they were 20. You see. So for us, we are more interested in our counties, which are transferred to Buganda. That's why you see.
We shall come to that. I want us to look at all the injustices.
Yes, yes.
Then we look at what your plea is.
Yes.
As the group now agitating for all this.
All right.
So land rights.
Yes.
Is what we were talking about. You say even in Mbale, you have land that was taken from Bunyoro.
No, not from Bunyoro. It was taken from the Bugisu.
Okay.
Yes, but now I just went there to see how wide the injustice of the 1900 agreement. Now, when this introduction of the mile in those counties which were allotted to Uganda, the indigenous community, few which had remained there, remained as squatters. And even today, they are squatters. They have to pay the busuru to use the land.
Who do they pay to?
The landlords.
Did that land remain in the hands of Baganda as owners, even when the territories were taken back to Bunyoro?
Yes, the land titles are still in Baganda. And now the owners of land titles, maybe they are selling the land to the government so that the people who own the land can benefit or can become owners. I don't know whether you are getting me right.
Yes, I am.
And the problem now for we as Bunyoro, then there was the resettlement of people from other areas to Bunyoro because there was vast of land out of this genocide.
That is the other historical injustice.
Historical injustice. Yes.
Who settled people in Bunyoro and when?
The government.
Which government?
The government of Uganda.
Yes, we have had a number of them, almost 8.
Now starting from, because there are those who are resorted from 1972, 1993, and even today, they are settling people in Kiliandongo, just recently. It's like about 10 years ago, they resorted people from Bududa, others from Southern Sudan to Kiliandongo. And when they stay there for 1, 2, 3 years, then they start becoming the Bataka on the area. So all those are injustices.
How is it an injustice?
Yes.
If new people come around an area, how is it an injustice?
No, it is just...
because what you're talking about, currently we have refugees.
Yes.
That are all over Kisoro.
Refugees?
Yes. Most of them have even bought land. Right now, around areas of Rubaga, there are people from the DRC that are buying houses. They are doing a lot of things. You take Entebbe Road. South Sudanese are buying houses. They are building. They are owning schools and things like that.
Yes.
When you go to Jinja, there are Indians who are actually speaking Lusoga and giving Kisoga names now to their children. Why is it an injustice to you, the Bunyoro, like you say, to have people that come to your area? How is it an injustice to you?
No, this thing is very wide. Because now, when you go to Article 20,
that's the width that
when
I
you
want.
go to Article 20 of the National Constitution,
Yes.
we all have equal inherent rights in all parts of Uganda. Okay? Now, if the land is in Bunyoro, it is for the Bunyoro. It is an inherent right. That's why they put the customary ownership of land in the constitution.
So what do you mean by that?
Yes, now there is
Acholi should not come from anywhere and settle in Bunyoro.
No, he can go there, but he is not right to own land. It can own land by lease, but not own land by. I don't know whether you are getting me.
I'm not getting.
There is a very big confusion in the tenure systems of Uganda. Because now,
let me make my question straight.
Yes, yes.
What is wrong with an OPO, a Mukwasi from Mbale, a Mukasa from Buganda, coming, owns or acquire land in any way, and owns it in Bunyoro? What is wrong with
Bunyoro
that?
is different. Because land does not belong to Bunyoro. It belongs to the Baganda. We, Bunyoro, we are squatters. And then how can a Bunyoro sell land? He maybe can sell the kibanja, but not land. Two, what we are foreseeing in Bunyoro, wait, I'm coming.
What do you mean by that? Bunyoro don't own land in Bunyoro?
Yeah, we don't own land, because land were given out by these people, my land owners and the Queen. That's why we go to ask land from this land board.
So, land is owned by Baganda and the Queen in Hoima, Masindi.
Yes, it is true. That's why you see, for us, we go to ask or to get ownership of land from the district land board. I don't know whether you are getting me right. It's a very confusing question, and it needs to be so intellectual to understand that. There is ownership in this country, whereby you have to go to the district land board to get ownership of land. Why? Because you don't own land yourself. It is not just a matter of registration of land, but it's just asking permission or ownership of land. And what we are foreseeing in Bunyoro, it is different from other people you are talking about. One person coming from Kabale, one person coming from Gisa and going somewhere to settle and get land from there. But what we are seeing in Bunyoro is masses of people being transferred by the government to that area. And the government has to invoke Article 26 to own that land, and can give it to any person or people according to the constitution. But it's different in Bunyoro. That's why you see they are buying the mile land from the owner, so that the people who are there can settle there permanently, because the government has bought the owner. I don't know whether you're getting me.
I'm going to ask you this again.
Yes.
I know the number of districts in Bunyoro.
Yes, yes.
Hoima, Masindi, Kibale,
Kakumiro, Kagadi, Bulisa, Kikube,
yes.
Kiryandongo. Yes.
There are 8 districts.
Yes.
I want you to say this again on camera.
Yes.
Are you saying land in all the 8 districts is owned by non-Bunyoro?
Even the non-Bunyoro, they have land.
Let us start with the first one.
Yes.
Did I get you right that the land in all the 8 districts you have mentioned is not owned by Bunyoro?
Most of the land. Yes, because
can you name
the land was vested in the Baganda who have the mines and the Queen of England.
Can you name some landlords?
No, there are many. Because now when we start naming so and so and so and so, because now you look here. Do you know the role of the district land board?
Yes, it manages national land.
It manages? On which behalf?
On behalf of the government of Uganda.
Yes. Meaning the government of Uganda is the owner of the land. When I tell you that we don't own the land in Bunyoro, I'm right. The land is owned by the government.
How did that come about?
We went to court to ask the judges. How did this come to happen? And for your information, although we are going far to reach there, that's why we decided to take the district land boards to court to explain how they got ownership of land in Bunyoro. We are in court with these land boards.